So, good evening. Welcome to the first summer episode of the Spooky Second podcast hosted by the Alfred State Paranormal Investigation and Urban Exploration Club. Tonight we will have JD, club president, Sophie, the club's new vice president, and Boots talking to Heather Mattison. She is the owner of the Stone Manor, a well-known haunted location in western New York, and she is a psychic medium. So, Heather, tell us about your first experiences with the paranormal.
First experiences with paranormal? I'd say going back to when I was a kid, I would always pick up on locations and things like that. It runs in the family. My grandmother was psychic as well. She used to do tea leaf reading and things like that. So first probably thing I would say would be my older sisters having a seance one time in the dining room of our house, and then having a shadow figure appear behind them. And this is back when they were teenagers, so that always sort of stuck with me, that it scared the hell out of them, and they never would touch a Ouija board again. But I was only probably 10 years old at the time. But still, it always stuck with me that was weird. Like something weird happened, because they were a lot older than me, and they weren't little kids when they were spooked by it. So I always thought it was odd. Like, what was it that they experienced, Or what did they conjure up? And then things started moving in the house after that. We heard noises in the kitchen for the next couple weeks after. So it was sort of crazy.
What exactly are shadow people, shadow figures?
What are shadow people? I mean, there's all different, people have different theories about what they think it is. Sometimes they're protector energies. To me, they seem darker. We have quite a few at the house here, but we have Native American burials out back, and we've caught pictures of them, and they seem to move around on their own. I don't think that they're human a lot of times, because they seem bigger. They look denser than even an orb or a mist that a ghost would sort of look like. We see them in the back of the property where the burial mounds were, the Native American burial mounds, and they look like ink almost. And then we had other psychics here, and what I pick up on it is that they're protector energies, almost like angelic or elemental. Different phylum than human or spirit.
Because when I was a kid, I had an experience where I saw a shadow person. It looked almost like a very solid shadow, but it gave me really creepy vibes. Because I went to go look because I was curious, and then ever since then, that room that was in my house, I just did not feel right. It was cold and everything, and I kind of got creepy vibes. It felt like I was getting watched in the room. It was really weird.
Yeah, they say they're the watchers. The watcher entities, sort of what elementals are all about. They're non-human entities. So if you were to go to Ireland, where the fairy glades are, where they have the non-human spirits and entities, it's all that sort of group of things, I think. Because they definitely seem weird. They seem like they're watching you. They definitely have a weird, like you said, almost like they scare you, or they feel like they're an authority figure almost in a weird way. They're watching you.
It was honestly, it was really terrifying, because that was the first time I've ever seen anything like that. And I don't know, it didn't feel safe. It felt like a creepy, kind of creepily watching.
Right. That too, because you got, the whole light spectrum is the reason why light and white is sort of lines up with good entities. And then you have the darker the scale of what you're seeing. Obviously, the darker the entity, or I don't want to say demonic, but they can be darker or angry entities or spirits too. So you don't really want to see the black figures, the dark figures, the ones that I've seen here. They look like ink, they're so solid and weird. They come across as in the shadows out back where the trees all are. They sort of appear peeking around trees, and same, we'll see them walk in front of the house. We have pictures of them. It's really weird, and they seem darker than the shadows around them. They almost have their own mass to it, almost like a thick.
Yeah. It looks like a void.
Yeah, and they're fast. They go really quick too. A lot of times, you'll see them whip by super fast. Some are low to the ground.
I feel sometimes I might see that. That was actually one of the things I was curious about, because I feel sometimes I'll be doing something, I'll just be reading, and all of a sudden I see something from the corner of my eye, just dash.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they say that those are also angelic figures too, because they're sort of watching over you, monitoring you, and people don't understand, like, angels are not what people think. They're not little light fairy type creatures. They're actually they're like the military of the spirit realms, or like God's realms. They're protector energies. They're huge. They're a bigger energy pool than like a human spirit because they're more powerful. They're older, so they're like a larger energy field too. Yeah.
Some people, well, there's a theory that spirits are just like created because of the energy they put into an environment. So the black shadow figures that we see are just like that negative, scared energy being made into a form.
Yeah, like manifesting out of your own will or your own fear, that kind of
People's
thing. Yeah.
gathered like thoughts about it.
They could be. I mean, I've heard that theory before, right? Where you could sort of make things manifest from your own fears, things like that. Yeah.
True. Whereas some
I feel
people,
like it
if they
was.
manifest too deep. Sorry, were you saying something?
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say about like it was kind of like the reverse about them and like manifesting, like kind of like trying to wish it away because like the whole shadow person thing that I saw, like it really bothered me, but I kept like thinking about it like constantly, and then other stuff would happen. Like it sounded like someone was like going up like my staircase or walking around, but there was not anyone walking around and stuff like
Right.
that. So it was like creeping me out. But then like had a babysitter with me and she was into all of this kind of things, and so she was like, well, like try to ignore it because then like if you keep thinking about it, like you're gonna keep like attracting it to you. And so I stopped thinking. I just tried to like stop like thinking about it, and then eventually it did like calm down. So it was kind of like the like reverse of that.
Yeah, it is like it's that third eye, once you start to, concentrate on it, it will sort of come to you, but then it's also your abilities. So some people are just naturally, they're psychic or they're empaths or intuitives, and they have a different aura, vibe, whatever you want to call it, the energy pool where they can communicate with spirit. So they look like a bluish color to the ghost realms. So when they see someone with that ability, the ability to hear them or see them, they'll come to you. This is like ghost energy. So once they realize you're hearing them or that you can come to them, then they'll start being around you because they're like, wait a minute, she's reacting to me. Like, oh, wait, she saw me. So then they're going to come around a lot because it's like, oh, this is really cool. They can hear me. And sometimes they're just coming to you because they need help, or it doesn't always have to be a negative thing. Sometimes they need your assistance maybe, but you're not there to like help them cross, but your spirit guides can help them cross and your angels can help them cross, things like that. Those other positive energies that are connected to you as well. Like you call in their help and they can help them cross too. Mm-hmm.
I know with some spirits, when they notice that you can actually communicate with them, or in some shape or form, that they come to you more. Not as to be harmful or anything, but they're just curious. They just want to be able to, communicate, as you were saying.
Sure.
But they just they get lonely once they're across the realm. They see hundreds, maybe thousands of people every day, and they're just invisible. People can pass through them, do whatever, and it's pretty isolating. So when they do get that little smidgen of, oh, are you there?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry. This is cool.
Yeah, but it also gets weird when they know you can communicate with them, because then they will definitely not leave you alone. And then once those barn doors are open, and that one person steps in, then other ones around will be like, oh, wait a minute, she can hear me too. But you don't have to go to haunted locations. You can go anywhere. You can go to like a grocery store, anywhere. If there's an entity there, they'll see your energy pool and they'll follow you. So it's sort of like you can pick up attachments any place as well. Yeah, it's definitely weird. And then when it comes to ghost energies themselves, like where do ghosts come from or why are there ghosts? A lot of times it's because people have died before they were supposed to. Could have been an accident, or an overdose or something strange where they shouldn't have died at that time, But when it comes to like reincarnations, you agree to be on Earth for a certain amount of time before you're reborn into this lifetime. So when people die before their time limit is up, like say they commit suicide, something weird that's unnatural, they shouldn't have died at that time period, they make an agreement to stay on Earth. Say they should have been here till they're 85 years old. They die at 25. They agreed to stay earthbound till they're 85 years old. So they remain on Earth until they would have turned 85, and then they go back to the spirit realm. The reason they do that is because when you die and go to the spirit realm, you're rewarded. It's heaven. Like, you get to relax and rest and all that. Life is hard. It's a school. So when you go through reincarnation, you live on Earth. If you decide to leave earlier than your term limit should be, then they're not going to reward you by sending you back to where you can rest. They said, no, you agreed to stay earthbound. So if you have to be earthbound in a ghost, form, then that's what's going to happen. You're going to stay that way. It's sort of weird. Yeah. That's why those seem so vibrant sometimes. You'll actually hear them, you'll see them moving around, and,
That is a very interesting theory that would fill in a lot of gaps to why ghosts are so. I don't know.
Or why do they stay? Why do they stay connected to a location or person?
Yeah.
So I've actually heard that theory before, and I've talked about it with a few friends, some people in my area that happen to be witchy. And from what I've discussed with them, that, yeah, in essence, that would fill in the most gaps and make the most sense. But also with spirit, say if you're a spirit, you die at a young age, and you're supposed to die when you're 100, you have to live another 6 years, and during that time, most spirits, through isolation and being alone, some can become tormented and even go insane.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, with hauntings and poltergeists and so on and so forth, those things that happen, they become, I don't want to say a trend, but they're more likely to happen through isolation and spirit realm and being stuck between both worlds.
Right. Like, even my guides explain it where, there's portals where people cross. There's crossing points that are sort of dropped in locations like cemeteries, anywhere like that. Like Gettysburg is a good example where a lot of people died all at one time and not everyone crossed properly. So they leave these portals where people can come and then cross later. So they know that sometimes people are confused when they're killed. Sometimes it's too quick and they don't realize they're dead. Sometimes people remain earthbound because of that, or they won't cross for some reason. Maybe they feel like they have to stay behind to watch someone else who's alive to help them or something. So it gets sort of weird with that as well. Like, why do people not cross? Like, what's their thinking, or why are they allowed not to cross? And then my spirit guides explained, we let them stay for certain reasons depending on how they died or why. But then they will always leave these portals, and they'll have angels that are like monitoring those areas, so they know where people are. They know who's sort of earthbound. So they said that they're sort of watched. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. But the whole concept of being a spirit and being a watcher is, the main issue with that is you're unable to really affect the physical realm. I mean, they can occasionally move things here and there, but they can't really impact too much. So being a spirit and being stuck between the world and your own purgatory on Earth, in essence, of course, they're going to want to stay and help, but they're not going to be able to do that much unless they try and channel the energy through more negative means.
Right.
From my own experiences, that doesn't tend to play out that well, because from some of my friends, they live in family homes where I live in the North Country, and their families have lived on farms for a few hundred years, and they're like, well, yeah, my great-great-grandfather, like, try and communicate with him, we use our Ouija and whatnot, and everything, but then there's some family members that they have living there that are just ultimately lost, and from how they explained it to me, that some of their family members' spirits, they're more negative, they're not going to hurt their own family, it's when they have company, when they act up, and then they channel that negative energy.
Right. They knew who's supposed to be here, who's supposed to be around, and who's not. They recognize who's family, who's not. Yeah.
Let me address one tech issue. Sophie, there's a lot of frequency coming from you, so when you're not talking, can you mute and then unmute when you're about to talk?
Yeah, I can barely hear. I can't really hear very well. Oh.
Yeah, same.
But so was your family the ones that helped you develop these psychic abilities, or did you find a group that helped you?
Not really. It just sort of naturally came about for me. I sort of started channeling a lot where I would start to take notes. I was getting messages. This is when I was older. But then I was asked by friends of mine who they wanted to start up a paranormal team, but they knew I was starting to do readings for people because I would get so much information on people. Like people would ask me questions all the time, like, "What do you think about this? Do you think I should quit my job? Do you think I should do this?" They were asking me all sorts of personal questions, and I would all of a sudden get answers for them. So I started doing just for fun, just sort of like, let me see, ask me a question, I'll see what I'm getting from this. And so I was just sort of testing the waters a little bit. Started getting weird, accurate things for people, friends and stuff. So friends of mine who wanted to start a paranormal group asked me if I would go along as like their psychic and see what I would pick up. And I never thought of doing paranormal investigating ever. It was never even something I was interested in really. So I went with them and it was crazy. Like I had entities just walk right up to me, tell me all sorts of stuff, but I'm a channeler. So I write, like I write longhand notebooks. And I'm like, okay, if somebody's here. I also use pendulums, like divining rods. I use old school stuff because that's how I was taught with like old school communication, And I was getting all sorts of responses with the pendulums, getting all sorts of answers with, this is Eric, with writing. So the channeling that came through. And we had gone to Rolling Hills Asylum. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that place, but all these names came through. I knew nothing about the history there, but I wrote a bunch of names down that I got all this information from the building. And then we went and validated it after. I said, hey, do these people ever exist? And they actually looked through some files that they had of people who had died there, and a bunch of the names were in there, and super weird, obscure stuff that we couldn't have found. And it was just a really weird experience. So then after that, I'm like, well, that was really cool. Let's go somewhere else. So then I started going with them to places, and I'm like, it was just nuts. As soon as I'd walk in, I could tell you, I'm like, wow, there's like a female here, and she's sort of, this is what she's dressed like. And then they would show themselves to me. So then it just snowballed from there. And then I just started doing both at the same time. I was doing some paranormal stuff, but then I was doing more on the readings and, doing a little bit more. So slowly just started evolving into, what it is now. Always learning stuff new. You know how that is. It's always changing.
Yeah.
That's true. But what were some different methods or like throughout the years, like getting to learn and understand with paranormal investigating and whatnot? Like what were some different methods that you picked up? Like were there some that worked better or some that didn't work as well?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I do a lot of, like I said, pendulums are interesting because you could even write a simple on a piece of paper, write even like a cross, a yes, no, maybe, write keywords on there, even about the location. Like say you go to the Lizzie Borden house, write even like a big X or a star symbol, and then on the points, write, Lizzie Borden and an X and keywords that would apply to that location. Hold the pendulum in the middle and then see if it points to any of the keywords. Write yes and no at the top and say, can you answer yes and no questions for me? And it'll go to yes. I made boards called, I'll show you, these are called communique boards. These, I know it's back, oh, you can see it. So it has like, oops, sorry, try not to get the sun on it. Yes, no, and it's got the alphabet at the bottom. It's got keywords like hello, goodbye. So like I'll take these two locations with my pendulum and then I'll say someone's here, can you point to hello? And then they come in, and as a medium, I'm then inviting the spirits to come to where I am, like to come over to where I am. So because I'm being the focal point, and then I'll tell like my investigators, put K2 meters there, put REM pods around me. And then I like to use a combination of both. So I'll start to draw them in through the pendulum. I always burn candles as well, because candles are a natural energy source. It's always creating its own energy. So spirits recognize that energy as well because it's a natural element, and they can manifest using that energy from the candle. You know how they'll take your energy from batteries and stuff, but a candle is a constantly creating energy field. And then candles, you can also have them interact with that as well. I mean, I'll even ask if you're here, can you flicker the candle flame Can you make it go down? Can you make the candle go out? Can you make the candle burn higher? And you'd be amazed at how many times all of a sudden it'll start to flicker. Like, can you put your hand through the candle flame and it'll start to flicker? Yeah, some neat. I like to use old school techniques and new stuff. So my investigators, I had a team called Elemental Paranormal, and one of my team members was a science teacher, or he is a science teacher. And he was so funny because he was such a skeptic. Everything had to have a reason. Had to have a scientific explanation. He's like, these K2 meters shouldn't be going off. Why is this going off? But then it was his own equipment going off. I'd ask questions, ask them to light it up, and he'd come right over, and it would light up. It was super, super crazy. So it was pretty wild. Stop.
Just curious because I know it's right away, but with the pendulums, they always they swing. They don't stay in one spot. So when you're using the board, does it spend over the word that you want, or does it swing over different words?
I could show you really simple. Basically, okay, so I've got a pendulum, but just because I was doing readings, if you hold it over the board, it's gonna just sort of circle. And even with this on an angle, I don't know if you can see that very well, but I'll say if you're here, can you point to hello? And it's pointing to hello already. It goes in a line. So it'll spin, it'll rotate when it's waiting for you to ask a question. And then when you say, what's your name? Can you point to the letters on the bottom of the board? It'll point to it'll start spelling out names at the bottom as well. But you anchor your elbow, you put it solid on the table so your hand's not moving at all. You want your hand to be as still as possible because you don't want any movement for that pendulum. You want to make sure that it's picking it up on its own energy.
I've heard that some people use they'll try and prop up the pendulum. They'll use I can't remember what it's called, but it's little metal prongs that will go up and just hold the center in the middle.
Right. To hold it still.
Yeah, just to make it as accurate as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yep, but as the person asking the questions, though, you have to have some sort of contact with that metal because it's using your energy. So it's channeling. The spirits are going to connect with you and sort of mix with your energy field to make the pendulum move. So even if you've got it on a stand like that and it's on a metal base, if you put your fingers at the bottom of the base even, don't touch the pendulum part, it should move still. Because it's then channeling through your energy. It's like being master Reiki healer where you're kicking that energy out of your hands because psychics will push the energy out through their hands and through their energy force. Mm-hmm. And same with divining rods too, because divining rods you can ask, if you're here, can you make them cross for yes? Can you make them go off to the sides for no? And that way you're getting yes and no answers. And I think I have a set I can sort of show you. Hang on. Just because I just use they're simple copper rods. But with these, I have glow-in-the-dark tips on them so you can light them up with your cell phone. So if you're in the dark, you can ask questions. And I just ask basic, if you're here, okay, we'll ask right now. If you're here, spirit's here with us, can you cross them for me? Can you show me what yes is? Oh, cat. Show me a cat. Go. So you can say, can you show me what yes is, right? So can you show me yes? Can you cross for yes? They're crossing. Okay, can you show me what no is? Can you have them go off to sides for no for me? Okay. Can you point to where the cat is on the table? Where's the cat? Where's Jim? Where's the cat? Can you point for me? And he is. He's right over there to the left of he was the one attacking the computer a minute ago. So you can ask them all sorts of stuff. You can ask, if there's ghosts in the house right now, spirits, can you count for me how many are here? Can you count how many are in the house right now? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say 4. So you can get them to count, point, do all sorts of stuff, but that's just your natural energy field. You're just holding it, channeling your energy. These are copper, so it's taking energy through the copper. So that's just, thank you for talking. So it's definitely different. I like using the old school stuff. I just have a lot of luck with those, But then I like the combination of using the modern stuff with the old school stuff. So if I'm saying, hey, I feel like there's like two little girls standing in the corner over there. It's spirit, and then they'll put the meters over there. They'll start taking pictures, and they'll get orbs, and they'll get weird stuff show up over there, where I'm being drawn to. And then that you're using like modern equipment with that. So you're using K2s and REM pods and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what our club does, because we use the intuitional stuff, the pendulums and dowsing rods, but then we also use the high-tech stuff.
Right. It's cool to have a mix of both, because then it's almost like validating what you're getting as well. As a psychic and medium, intuitive, you guys have your own gifts going on. It's nice to have what you are seeing show up then. You know what I mean? Like, yes, that is where I was picking stuff up. Like, we have a hallway here. We get a lot of walking. The house was a dairy farm, so there's like lots of residual. I think it was a farm family, and I think there was a lot of people getting up first thing in the morning to do chores and farm work and stuff. So we get a lot of pacing up in the hallway upstairs at like 5 in the morning. So we'll put K2 meters there, REM pods, and you'll see them light up in order, like someone's walking back and forth. It's really weird. We caught that on film. So it's like you're definitely feeling that energy walking back and forth down the hallway. We hear it. It sounds like boot heels. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. We've got some crazy EVPs and just nuts that we can't explain,
Well, out of the EVPs and some of your own findings, what would be the one that sticks out to you the most, just off the top of your head?
Oh, for an EVP? Yeah. I can play it for you. This is really quick. It's only a few seconds long, but you can hear it. This one really took me by surprise, I gotta say. This was, so our house, we had a man here named Curtis Stewart who built the house. And he likes to touch like women here in the house. A lot of women get touched. They get their hair touched, all sorts of stuff here. And we had a couple stay with us for an overnight for a B&B stay. We were in the basement, and they were the only ones in the house. It was just me and them. It was a husband and wife. And we were sitting at a table in the basement, and the wife was getting touched. She kept getting her arm touched, and all the meters were going off in front of her. So she was asking him to come over and touch her again. Then her husband makes a joke, and you hear him laugh. He goes, ha, he makes this like quick laugh, but he's got a higher voice. And then you hear this man laugh with him. At the same time he's laughing, this man just starts going, ha, ha, this crazy deep laugh. But we're not hearing it. It's an EVP. We're doing burst session. So we're asking questions and then playing right back. And you can hear, his wife actually start to ask another question because we're not hearing it. Then when we played it back, we heard it. So it was pretty crazy. But I can play that for you. This is really quick. So that's just that deep, that crazy low laugh. That's the thing that we didn't hear at all. Like, that was not, it was just out of the blue. So that was sort of crazy. We've caught some really insane things, but that one, we just can't explain it. There's no explanation for that. But we've heard him talking in the house before. We hear audibles. He talks a lot in the house. We hear his voice has got a very low voice, and he just has this, like that sort of on charge sounding voice. I mean, you heard the way he's laughing. He's just like, like super weird. But then I played that for the previous owners of the house as well. Because she told me, she said, yeah, we hear this guy all the time talking in the house. We hear his voice. So I played that for her. And she's going, yeah, that's the same guy. That's that same voice. And then we were just on an episode of a show called Kindred Spirits. And that was just on Discovery Plus a couple months ago now. And when they were here investigating, the one investigator caught an EVP at the same table in the basement, same area. He caught a man saying, go outside, because they're asking questions about hauntings and stuff. And you hear this man say, go outside, like bossy, like same, right? Same tone, same voice. And so when the episode aired, and he was up here talking during the episode about, he says, go outside. And he's like, no, he's not. He's saying, go outside, but he's being bossy. And when I listened to it, I'm like, oh my God, this is the same voice, same tone, same voice. So I met those guys a few weeks ago, the people from that show, and we were just talking about the episode and all that, and I played this laugh for him because they had not heard that before. And I said, the thing you guys caught, this is the guy, and I played the laugh for them, and I'm like, oh my God, it's the same voice. I'm like, yeah, it's the same. So whatever's going on, he seems very, I've never heard of you, he's that loud, ever. He says straight up weird answers. We had a tombstone, a bunch of tombstones that were at the side of the house when the lady before us lived here. She actually dug one of them up and brought it in the house as a decoration and had it in the living room for a long time. And the tombstone said our Ben on it. So it was a child, like a Victorian tombstone. Victorians used to have like our baby, our Ben, our Johnny, when little kids didn't live to be a certain age. And so super weird with all of that. And so with that, I knew with this tombstone being there, we couldn't find another property. I asked her where the tombstone went. She said she took it to her house, and it's a decoration at her house now, where she lives. So she took it off the property and brought it with her when she moved. And so I asked down in the basement, same. I asked who was Ben. She thought it would have been a racehorse tombstone because there were racehorses here, and it was a big racehorse farm as well. And you hear a man answer and say, he was our baby, like that same tone of voice, and pissed off. He sounds really mad at us, like we're being an idiot for asking that question. He actually goes, he was our baby, like with that same tone, that same low voice, So he seems to be pretty chatty, and he's pretty loud. We called him multiple times. And that one freaked me out. And that's the loudest stuff I've ever caught anywhere. We've been to Eastern State Penitentiary, Lizzie Borden House, all through Salem, you name it, all over the place. Lots of different paranormal locations.
How do you like when there's like a lot of noises, like how do you like kind of like protect yourself, like block it out? Like is it ever like too much?
For me, I focus. I'll wait till I'm being drawn to something or someone asks me, what are you feeling in here? What are you feeling in this particular room? Then I'll focus, because otherwise it's too overwhelming. Like if I'm on a crowd of people, like say I go to the mall at Christmas time and there's like a ton of people walking past me, I can't focus on, it would make you insane if you were just focusing on all these people, So for me, because I ask my guys I'm clairaudient, so I hear them talking to me. And it sounds just like I'm on a cell phone. I mean, it just sounds like somebody's talking. I can hear their different voices and everything. And then they'll show me when they have to, or they'll show me when I ask them to show me. Because visual, I think, is a little more off-putting. Because when somebody jumps in front of me, I'm like, what the heck, Because then they're trying to get my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely more startling when you see an image, And I just had that happen. We were refinishing the basement here, putting the walls back up that were taken down. So we're putting the house back to how it's supposed to be. And we knew the blueprints. We knew where the walls were. So we're putting the walls back up. And that was a crazy couple months. But when we got the project done, my husband works late sometimes, came home late one night. I was already asleep in bed. I wear contacts, so I can't see when my contacts are out, so everybody's blurry. But I remember waking up at like 4 a.m. and he was standing at the foot of the bed. He's just standing there, and I'm like, and I thought he was trying to wake me up. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I thought he was trying to ask me a question, but I was so tired. I remember closing my eyes and then open my eyes again. He's still standing there. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, are you trying to wake me up? Like, what's going on? I was so confused. And then I ended up falling back asleep. But this was right when we were doing all that construction in the basement. Next morning, I wake up, he wakes up, and I'm like, what were you trying to talk to me? Why were you standing at the foot of the bed? It was super creepy. Like, you were just standing there watching me sleep. Like, what the hell? What's going on? And he's like, yeah, that wasn't me. He's like, I did not do that. I was not standing at the foot of the bed. So they mimic us. He looked just like him. He was tall, but it was a dark shadow, though. It looked like a dark shadow outline of a person standing there. They mimic our voices. We hear each other calling each other from different rooms in the house, and it's not us. The one time my husband kept hearing me calling his name from other rooms in the house, and he kept walking to the house thinking I came home early. Maybe somebody dropped me off. He couldn't figure out why I was home when my car wasn't here. So then he texts me, and he's like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm at work. And he's like, he said, I've been hearing you calling my name through the whole house. Like, I went in the basement, went upstairs. I kept hearing my name being called. It was your voice. I'm like, yeah, they mimic voices too. That's pretty crazy.
It's not
Really?
as novel being
I don't know about the voice mimics.
It's what? About the voice thing?
I feel like that's crazy. Like, yeah, like I never heard of that before.
we didn't know what was going on at first. We were definitely confused because we're in the middle of the country, so we're not hearing neighbors talking. It wasn't like we were hearing voices from anywhere else. So we were like, they seemed to be coming from inside the house, you know? So when I finally got in touch with the lady who owned the house before me and compared notes with her, because I'm like, hey, this was 6 months after we moved in. I said, did you guys ever have anything paranormal happen here? Because we're hearing all sorts of strange stuff. We're seeing things moving, you know, hearing booms, explosions in the basement. There's nothing down there, but we're hearing literally explosions. She goes, yeah. And then she told me about the mimicking their voices there at the house. And I'm like, oh my God, we have had that happen. And we've had other people, guests who stay in the house. Same, like this one lady said her daughter was calling her from one of the front rooms of the house, and she wasn't in there. She went in there. It was really funny because she's like, what, you know, are you calling me? What's going on? It freaked her out really bad. Her daughter's like, yeah, and I wasn't calling your name. I wasn't doing anything. I was just sitting here. So they sort of know what people sound like too.
Wow.
Which is even weirder.
Sounds like some of these spirits like to be tricksters, like to play.
Yeah, practical jokers for sure.
That sounds so much different, like as if it's a new type of spirit, because doppelgangers usually do something negative. So it's not that, because you haven't had any negative experiences with it. So it's just.
We've had, more of it. Well, we've had people scratch pretty badly, though. We've had some crazy stuff happen. You know, we've had people hurt. You know, we had one girl had to leave. I have pictures of that stuff. It was just nuts. You know, but then people are asking for the spirits to scratch them and touch them. And then they get scratched and touched, and then they're all surprised that they got scratched and touched, you know?
It's all in them.
Like this lady here. Whoa. I'll just show you this real quick because it's. Whoa. Whoa. What did you say very well? She got all these red marks on her back. See how it's all red?
Yeah.
Let me see that very well. But it's just weird because they had been asking, hey, can you touch me? And they touch them and they can't. But, you know, like people, the theories about all that as well is this scratching because they're trying to get your attention? Are they really trying to hurt you? Or are they just trying to make contact, you know? Because spirits, I mean, your spirit is a ball of electricity. So if you're outside your body and you're still a ball of electricity and you're going to someone, is it going to make an electrical burn? Because that's what it looks like to me. It doesn't, you know what I mean? It's a strange red. It was weird. And then by the morning, it had faded. So I took pictures of it in the morning and it turned into just a couple scratches, you know, but all the red around it was sort of calmed down. That went away.
I feel like that's such a bad idea to go ask to get like scratched by them. Like I feel like that's like welcoming in like doctor things.
Well, yeah, I mean it's definitely weird. And then that clip I just showed you too, because in the end of that clip, they're saying, hey, can you scratch my friend too? They're asking to scratch her friend who's filming. And then that was about 3 a.m. They came upstairs here because they had gotten subs or something. So they had food in the dining room, but they had been, you know, investigating the whole time. We weren't, you know, here we were in our side of the house. So they were here by themselves investigating. They came upstairs to eat, and the girl who was doing that filming had her phone, and she has facial recognition on her phone, so it doesn't go on unless she has to look at it to make it go on. So she put it down on the dining room table when she used the bathroom, and then her boyfriend said he saw a shadow person run around the dining room table where they were getting the food out. He said, something just ran by me. I just saw a shadow person. So he started filming. And so he's filming, and all of a sudden, the girl's phone that's laying on the table went on by itself, and then it turned on Pandora, and then it picked a song and started playing it. And the girl in the bathroom is like, what the hell? And her friend is like, your phone just went on by itself. It's like playing, and I have all that on footage. It's crazy. It's just out of nowhere. And then the K2 meters were lighting up like crazy. So something was messing with their equipment. It just, and like she said, you know, you have to like look at it and then pick Pandora and then pick a song, and it doesn't just go on, you know? So the spirits, though, they're electric, right? It's a ball of electricity, so they mess up. You guys have probably experienced that yourselves with electronic equipment and draining your phones, and you know, you'll have brand new batteries. You go there and then they're dead, and they will blow up cameras and do all sorts of stuff. Sometimes they don't know their own strength, I think. I don't think it's on purpose, but who knows? Depends on where you're going.
That's very true.
Mhm.
Especially when people invite spirits to touch them or scratch them. I mean, I've done that before. I was not smart, but
Yeah.
from that
Yeah.
experience, I would have red marks, scratches, bruises. I was even physically and mentally drained at some points, even though I would try and continue for a couple more hours. It's just as it went on, the activity and the things happening around us, it would amp up in a sense, but I would just get so tired. Like, I need
Yeah. Yeah, because they'll take your energy source. They know that they can. That's a source they recognize as your spirit energy pool. So they'll borrow that for a while. We've had people on investigations here where half of the team will be like, "Oh, we're going to go in different rooms. We're going to do some EVPs," and they'll sort of leave. And then we had one guy just disappear. Like he was gone for over an hour, and they're like, "Where did so and so go?" And they're like, "I think he's doing EVPs in one of the other rooms." So they went upstairs to find him. He was asleep. He's like laying on the bed going, I was asking questions. Last thing I remember, I was asking questions, and then all of a sudden, I'm out cold. He's like, I don't remember you falling asleep. He's still holding his recorder. So they were like, what the hell? But they'll drain people. And a lot of times they'll target like one person will get super drained, and then everybody else is fine around them, or really cold. You know how you get freezing cold, and the person next to you is fine because they're taking your energy pool. Make you really warm. How do they pick a person?
Like let's say there's multiple people in a room. Like, how do they choose like which person's like energy to like go to?
I think a lot of times they may have abilities. It may be something that they recognize. Like I said, with that aura thing, where they feel like you have an energy field that they feel that they can either communicate with or attach to, or that you might be open to them coming to you. And then there's other people provoking and just being jerks or whatever. If they're being rude, then they might attack those people too. So we don't allow provoking here, but then we're not babysitting people 24 hours a day. We're not sitting on your lap while you're here. So we can't guarantee, but we tell people, it's like, be careful, because if you're rude or whatever, this is a house full of Victorian entities, and how the Victorians were, it's all about manners and rudeness and swearing and all that. So it's sort of interesting too. So people are being rude or whatever, they seem to get attacked as well. It just depends on the location of where you are, what you're asking,
That's pretty interesting, because you just you reminded me of something. But going to these older locations, Victorian locations, sometimes I know, we'll say if a spirit died in the 1700s, the things that we're using, the methods that we're using, they might not understand anything going on, because, well, when they died, they horse and buggy, and then they just see people just coming along in a car, like, what is that? So then you have to curtail a lot of your questions and a lot of things that you do to try and make sense to them, because I've noticed when you attempt to do that, sometimes you can get more accurate, better readings when you try to adhere to what they know instead of trying to force something, down their throat in a sense.
Right. Trigger objects work well too. Something from their time period, or if you like go on YouTube and play a song that would have been from that era, things like that. But it's definitely, for me, I always tell people, like, explain what you're using, explain what the equipment does. Like, oh, hey, this thing, if you pick it up, it's going to have a little light on it, and if you touch it, it's going to light up and it won't hurt you. You have to explain to them, like, it's not going to take your energy. It's just going to make a little light up thing. And you're real simplistic, like you said, sort of explain what it does. If they touch, it's going to make a noise, but it won't hurt you, because they're worried. And they, with the communicate board, that pendulum board that I made, I even have words that are like safe and things like that. Good. They'll always ask, is it safe? They'll go to safe. And I'm like, yes, it's safe. It's not here to take your energy. It's not going to hurt your energy, and then they'll touch it. Then they'll start making the REM pods go off and stuff. So you always have to explain to them that it's not going to hurt them, or it shouldn't. I don't know 100%. Maybe it does. I don't know. But it doesn't seem to affect them, It's not a trap or anything weird where it's going to hurt their energy on purpose. We're not trying to hurt them. We just want to communicate.
It makes me wonder how the mocking spirit actually has like a sense of how the phone works. Whether somebody took time to work with it to make it understand, or if it's it keeps up to date knowledge with technology or something?
Well, because there's also different entities. You've got they call them sentinel guardian spirits that watch over locations. A big one would be like a cemetery, where they are done with their reincarnations. They've already lived all their lifetimes on Earth. They're a human spirit, but they've graduated basically with their reincarnations. They're done. They don't have to come back in human spirit form. One of your jobs is you can watch over locations that where the dead are buried as like a guardian figure. And it's not for eternity. It's just for like a time period. You're there to like sort of watch over the dead because it's sacred ground and all that. So that's why when you walk into cemeteries, you'll feel like you're being watched all the time. If you ever walk into a cemetery, you always feel like you're looking over your shoulder. You feel like there's someone right on you when you're walking around a cemetery. And I ask my guides, like, what is that phenomenon? Like, why do you feel like, for me, I feel like I'm walking in deep snow. When it's snowy and you walk around, everything's muffled, your hearing gets really quiet. That's the feeling I get in a cemetery, even if it's windy or if there's no rain or snow or anything, you just feel like you're being muffled or like there's something around you. And they're like, yeah, those are guardians. They watch over the cemeteries and they're going to follow you around. So those entities also watch over different locations like hospitals, like Rolling Hills Asylum, I'm sure, places where a lot of people may have passed or died, or for whatever reason, they sort of guard certain locations. Gettysburg is one, battlefields, things like that, they'll watch. But they know there's been a lot of dead. Yeah. So those entities are human. They're human, but they're done reincarnating, and then they have knowledge of everything of present tense because they've already gone to heaven. They're done with all their lives, so they know what's going on in the modern world. They're aware of everything around them, all dimensions. You know what I mean? They're sort of watching everything at once.
Is there
You go to a different level. Is it what?
Is there like other kind of jobs? Because you said like how like one job could be like being like the location of like the grave sites. Like what would be like another like type of job?
You can become a spirit guide for people as well. So everybody has a spirit guide. Everybody has one that's assigned to you from birth. You would have known them in the spirit realm before you're reincarnated onto this life for this lifetime. They would have been friends with you. They're done reincarnating and they don't do that anymore. But you sit down with them and you hash out your life with them. Like, this is what I want to try and achieve. These are my goals. This stuff I want to work on. And then when you're born as a baby, your memory's wiped clean. You don't remember anything, but your guide knows what it is. And your guide stays with you all the time. They're always on your right-hand side. They stay right there. They never leave your side. They're your go-between to people in the spirit realm, to angels, guardians around you. They're like a bouncer in a nightclub as well, because they keep anything negative at arm's length for you. They also monitor and watch over your body when you go into astral projection. So if you ever sleep or you have those dreams where you're traveling, astral projection dreams, where you feel like you're flying or you're somewhere else and you're like monitoring or watching somebody, those are astral projection dreams where you leave your body basically. And one of your guides' jobs is to sort of step in and babysit you while you're out doing whatever it is you're doing with astral projecting as well. So they do a bunch of things, but that's one job that you do have once you're done with all of your reincarnations. A lot of people choose to be spirit guides. Then you watch over, and what's weird is that they know your life path, so they're always talking to you. So it's your conscience, your inner voice that's always pushing you to do certain things. Like, okay, you have free will to a point, but you really don't, because you do have a path actually that you planned. You even plan your death into your life as well. Everything's planned out. So they let you go off your beaten path a little bit. You have free will a little bit, but then they always try and rein you back in. Okay, let's do this now. You know how that voice sometimes really loud, like, all right, let's, oh, you had fun with that. Now let's come back and do this now. They lead you back to what you're supposed to be doing. They know what you're trying to achieve. So your spirit guides are very important. And they also, when you die and you go to your life review, they sit right next to you during your life review, and they get in just as much trouble as you do. So if you've had a life where, say you went on a killing spree, or you went something crazy, or you were maybe into drugs or something crazy, drinking, and maybe your guides felt that you didn't have enough help, or you suffered for a long time, your guides get in trouble because they want to know, why didn't you help this person at this point? Why didn't you get them help? Why didn't you seek out, more help with that? And they also get props for when you do good things as well. So they get judged just along with you. And if they feel that you suffered at some point for a long time where you shouldn't have, like there was ways to help you, then they get in trouble as well. Your spirit guides. So they're really important to you. Mm-hmm. But that's one job. It's another job. And there's a lot of people on Earth, so you figure everybody on Earth has a spirit guide. That's a lot of spirit guides. Yeah.
That's interesting. I never heard of that theory of them, like them getting in trouble. Like that's interesting.
Oh yeah, like they get in trouble. Like in fact, it's pretty dangerous because like my guides always say, like it behooves them to make sure that the person you're guarding is as okay as you can have them be. But people have issues. They have chemical imbalances. There's stuff when people sort of may take a wrong turn, there's no coming back from that. Like there's issues, they understand. They take all that into account as well. So even when you die and you're doing your life review and they're showing you your life, like, okay, what happened here? Explain this part. Like what was going on here? And then they take all that into account, you could have chemical imbalance or something else that made you do certain things. And they're like, okay, I see at this point. Yes, that makes sense. And so it's all weighed. They understand,
So like, what is the review for? Like, is it for like just to go look at it, or is there like a reasoning for it?
It's a reasoning because you're basically every reincarnation, you reincarnate in between 13 and 21 times. Every reincarnation and you're dealing with a task. It's usually one of the 7 deadly sins or one of the 7 heavenly virtues. They sort of give you one thing to tackle. So say one lifetime it's greed is your thing you're going to deal with. Maybe you're born into a very wealthy family. So what did you do with your money? Greed is the thing you're battling. So did you give it away to charity a lot? Were you helping other people, or did you keep all that money to yourself? Because that's a lesson you have to learn, like with that, And then the next lifetime out could be envy. So you're jealous of people, but this is something that's going to be something you have to battle. It's like you have to work through these issues every lifetime. It's something new you have to work on every lifetime out. There's different things you have to work on.
So as for the Graestone Manor, how did you come into ownership of it?
We were looking for houses out in the country because we were living in the suburbs of Buffalo. And my husband's from the country, so he wanted something with a little land to it. And I wanted something older. And we had looked at a whole bunch of houses, and they all needed a ton of work, and they just weren't right. There was always something wrong with them. They just seemed to be way too much, for us to handle. So we ended up giving up on looking for houses, and then I had Zillow apps and all the stuff on my phone to look at houses, and I ended up getting rid of all the apps because we figured we'd wait a year, save more money up and all that stuff, and then we'll look for houses later. But then this house, even though I got rid of all my apps, kept showing up on my phone saying, hey, we found a house for you. And the pictures they had of this house were really ugly. It was like really plain rooms, and it didn't look nice. It just looked like a normal house, and I kept deleting them. Finally came up a third time, so I asked my friend who's a real estate agent if we could come look at this place. And she said, oh, I've got a couple more houses to look at. So we just sort of accidentally came here, looked at it. But the day we looked at the house, as soon as we walked in, the house had been in foreclosure for 4 years, so it had been sitting for a long time. And as soon as we walked in the house, our real estate agent said, hey, I just got a message from the listing agent, and they said it's sold. It's no longer for sale. So we turned around and walked out. So I never got a chance to look at this house. I walked into what's my office and said, wow, it's really sunny in here for Victorian, but never went upstairs, didn't go in the basement, and didn't check anything out, so we left. Looked at the other 2 houses that she had picked out for us. We didn't like those either. So my husband said, maybe the people who bid on the house put in a low bid, so let's put a higher bid in, and maybe they'll give us a house. We were sort of kidding. We weren't really serious. We weren't even really looking at that point. So he put a bid in, and they accepted it. We didn't expect that. So we called our real estate agent and said, hey, they accepted our offer. Can we go back through the house? Because we never got a chance to look at it. And she said, you can't because you're under contract. So we can go back through it again until the final inspection and walkthrough, which we also didn't get to do because she ended up doing that on her own. So we never got to see the house until we moved in. So we sort of bought it sight unseen, and I never got a feel of the house. Like as a psychic, the first thing I do is I walk in and I how you get a vibe or feel, you go through different areas of the house. It's like, okay, there's something in here. I feel this in here. We never got a chance to do that at all. So it was pretty bad. So we moved in. It was such a pretty house, and we're like, oh, this is great. And my husband's like, I think something's going on in here, because he had seen some things outside, thought he saw a woman outside who disappeared, and saw some other things. So after we were here, the first day we were here, we started seeing things right away. hearing noises, hearing our voices. It was pretty crazy. And then we started just digging into it more, finding out the history, talking to the previous owners. And I had friends who were psychics come over to the house. I didn't tell them anything. I said, hey, can you just come over and just let me know if you feel anything weird in this house? I don't want to tell you where or anything. I just wanted them to come over and see what they thought. And they walked in and they all kept going to the same spots, same locations, kept saying they're seeing the same woman. And they're like, there's a man upstairs, there's somebody in the basement. I'm like, yeah, yes. And they were all describing the same people, So it was pretty wild. And then we found out about 8 months ago now that the original owner of the house, Curtis Root, that I'm actually related to them. I'm cousins with them. We have the same 4 times great grandfather. So I'm actually a family member of the people who built the house. So they kept telling me, oh, we're bringing family back to the house. And I had no idea what they were talking about, but I guess that's what they meant. So pretty scary that, that I'm related to them.
Oh,
Didn't know that.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost like they were free.
Yeah, right. It was, because I didn't want to move. I loved my house. I already had a house that I liked. It was small, cute, So I didn't think this would go through. So we're like, oh, I'm good.
So do you guys live there, or is it just a B&B now?
We live here. The house is set up so it's got like the servants' quarters in the back of the house. So we're in like the back part of the house. It's sort of set up into 2 parts, the main part and then the back part of the house. So when people stay here, we're still on the property. We're still here. Because it was 7 bedrooms. Now we have like the 4 that we run out. And then we're in the back bedrooms in the back part of the house. Back rooms.
Is it like mostly rented out for the haunted attraction, or is it pretty well used for the B&B?
It's sort of a mix of both, I would say. I mean, we like at the summertime, we're on the Niagara Wine Trail. So there's wineries, there's like 15 wineries around us. And then we have about 4 or 5 wedding venues around us. So there's lots of weddings around us as well. Like the right, like through the cornfield across the street here of the house, like 4 minutes away. So we get people staying for the weddings. We get a lot of people going to Niagara Falls because we're on the route to Niagara Falls as well. We're about a 45-minute drive to the falls. So a lot of people will stay with us and then go to the falls for the day, coming in from wherever they're coming in from. So we get a lot of tourist, visitors as well. I'd say half and half. Wintertime is probably more paranormal. Just because the house is quiet, easy to investigate too,
Yeah.
No crickets, no noises outside. So it's very quiet. Yeah.
So what's the overall story with the spirits?
We know that we have 7 confirmed deaths in the house. We have their obituaries and everything. We know who died in the house and everything, but we do have it's the original people who built the house were the Root family, Curtis Root and his wife Melissa Root, and they moved in with their kids and their youngest daughter Flora. So they lived here until 1923. But in 1889, Curtis Root, the man who built the house, he was a horse breeder and trader. And he owned a plantation down in Virginia where he had a racetrack as well. And he also owned an oyster farm down in Chesapeake Bay and Harvey's Wharf down in Virginia too. So he owned quite a bit of land between the two, coming up here and going down there. And he used to do, he bred Hamiltonian standard bred racehorses. So he raced horses in Virginia and up here, and he had the racetrack on the property too. So he was a big racing person. He had a blacksmith shop and all this stuff going on here, but it was also on the Erie Canal. So they were rum runners as well. They were part of the Underground Railroad. And we also had, there's like Native American burials near the property and on the property out back. And they found like hundreds of people buried in a peach orchard. No, not even a mile from here. It was in 1908. A farmer was pulling out old dead peach trees with a tractor, and in the roots of the peach trees were hundreds of skeletons. And it's a huge burial mound, so it's not even a mile from here. And then they found like 20 bodies by the bridge. But when they dug up all the people in the peach orchard, they realized the hill that this fruit orchard was on was a huge burial mound, Native American burial mound. So people were coming in from the city of Buffalo on trolleys and to come and see the Indian bones, and they were taking them as souvenirs. People brought skulls home as souvenirs and stuff. They were like just taking these graves apart, and it was insane. And I found all this history out researching the book because I'm like, what the heck is going on here with the Native American stuff? Because we catch chanting and drumming. We've seen Native Americans. We hear stuff out back. And then we were told, yeah, it was all burials here. And so Gasport is called Gasport because the creeks that they turned into the Erie Canal, when the creeks were here originally, when the Native Americans had all their settlements here, Gasport had little blue flames that were lit all the time in the creek beds that would stay lit all the time. It was like little blue flames. So the Native Americans thought it was sacred ground, so they buried everybody here. So we're basically in a giant cemetery. So there's that as well. So there's a couple different things, but the roots. So Curtis Root died. He was crushed by his racehorse, taking the horse into town, and he told us the horse slipped in ice when a train came by, spooked him, crushed Curtis Root. He rode his horse back here to the house, told his wife he was fine. He thought he was just bruised. He got into bed, told her not to call a doctor. He thought he was just going to recover. And he ended up dying probably from internal injuries about 2 weeks later. And then his wife died also of pneumonia back in 1900. And her father lived with them for a while, Daniel Stoll, and he also died here of pneumonia. And so there are quite a few deaths. And then Flora ended up, the youngest daughter, selling the house in 1923 to the Kalkenberg family. And then they moved in because we're only the fourth family in here. So the second family in, they also lost some people here. The people who bought it, Henry and Minnie Kalkenberg, both died in the house as well of pneumonia. One was heart attack as well. So they died upstairs. And then the youngest daughter, Flora, ended up inheriting the house. And she and her husband, Dorson, lived here. And in 1960, he ended up dying of mesothelioma. So he had breathing issues as well. So lots of weird breathing issues. And that was in the gold room. And the families of those people came here for a seance, and they told us all about that happening and brought pictures of the family members and everything and explained, they remembered coming here, visiting him, and he was bedridden for many, many years upstairs in the one room. So quite a few deaths here as well. So as far as the haunting and who's here, we definitely hear Curtis Root, we hear Melissa Root all the time, Flora sometimes, and then the one Kalkenberg, Henry Kalkenberg and his wife, we hear him as well. We've seen pictures of him, caught pictures of him too. So there's quite a few. There's a little boy, we think it's that Ben tombstone, because there's a little boy who's about 3 or 4 years old that was in the closet that's upstairs is the kid's bedroom closet. And when the lady before me had the house, she said that her son used to complain about the little boy in the closet that used to want to play with him at night. He'd come out and sit on his bed and wake him up and used to bother him all the time. And we've caught him on film. We had a paranormal team here with a night vision camera in the kids' room. We call it the kids' room because it has like all dolls and stuff in there. And you hear giggling, you hear running down the hallway, you hear giggling, and then the doorknob like jiggles and opens. The door opens by itself. And it's like a child giggling. So we've caught him a couple times as well here in the house. So there's definitely a few different things going on. That's inside the house, and outside has whatever that is out there with the Native American stuff. So there's quite a few different things going on. The ones I hear mostly are Curtis Root, though. He's like sort of the main person, and Melissa Root, his wife, seem to be the main ones.
Took like the bones, like once the bones home, like do you think like that person's like spirit like went with it like to their homes?
I just found I found like articles on that, and they said that the authorities made two boys like return skulls that they had taken. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe taking the bones, like you said, and disrespecting them and bringing them home. I'm sure maybe people did bring them to, it was a different time back then. They didn't care. And when I found this article about this all happening, because I know it's right there, it's like right up the road. I went on to the local page, how they have the town pages like on Facebook, and I said, hey, does anybody know about this happening? And I posted the article I found. And I said, is there a plaque or anything up there? Because I want to go check it out. I wanted to pay my respects, first of all, and I wanted to just, for me, get a vibe of the area for the same reason. I wanted to see if there was anything up there, like what was I getting for energy and what was happening. They said, no, there's nothing up there. There's no markers, nothing that says that was ever happened there. And then someone else is like, oh, that's so-and-so's farm. And I don't think she knows that that's there. I don't think she realizes that there's like thousands of people buried under her orchards. So it's pretty weird, but back then the people didn't care. They're brutal. They would just plow under these burial mounds. They were all over the place. Western New York was a huge Native American community, It was the Iroquois Confederation, and there was millions of them. Everybody lived here,
For the underground, go ahead.
Go ahead.
After you were saying something.
Nope, I'm done.
For the Underground Railroad, there's got to be a connection to the Van Horn Mansion, which is very close, and also has connections to the railroad.
Right, we're on the path to that. We had there's a lot of stuff that I dug up. There's Middleport, Medina, are a couple little towns like to the east of us, and then you've got Van Horn, which is up near the lakes. But they said Medina, Middleport had a lot of houses that have tunnels that go from like their kitchens out to the woods that are like filled in now, but you can see like where the tunnels were, and they would like, so when people were hiding and things like that, they would go through these tunnels and then go out into the woods and escape. And because we were on the canal, so it was the easy route for them to come up here, and then you just drive up the road here like 15, 20 minutes and you're at the lake, but you're up at Van Horn. So also Frederick Douglass, one of his really good friends lived in Gasport, and he would spend like 6 months out of the year here in Gasport. So this is his stomping grounds. This was like somewhere where he was very comfortable. And Curtis Root, the man who built our house, his grandfather, Erastus Root, was a big deal politician back in the day. He was friends with Thomas Jefferson. He helped write the Louisiana Purchase. He was governor of New York for like 35 years. He did all sorts of stuff in government. He was also the head mason for this area. He was like the guy, but he was also very anti-slavery. He was the Whig Party, the Republicans, Democrats. He was a Whig. And he was very much progressive, new ideas, new thinking. And in 1823, he tried to pass a bill abolishing slavery in New York State and like not allowing anything. And that's way before the war. So they were very much anti-slavery. Even though they own plantations down in Virginia, I think some of that might have been a cover to try and get people up here somehow. Like, I don't know what was going on there. Like, I'm very suspicious of that. Like, why did they own plantations and then be part of the anti-slavery? You know what I mean? It's sort of weird. Interesting. Still trying to dig into that information. We found out quite a bit. Found a bunch of newspaper articles, so we know that they were helping out.
Must be for the money.
It could have been.
Related to it.
It could have been, yeah, for business. Who knows what was going on, back then. Up here in New York, they had all the Irish doing all the work. They had their own slave labor through the Irish, with the Irish indentured servants and all the nonsense that went on with the Irish here. So
I feel like my guess would be kind of like what you said, maybe like a cover up to like maybe bring people to the north, maybe possibly.
That's what I'm wondering. I wonder if some of it was part of that as well. Like it was an excuse to like, because you'd have to load all the horses and everybody up on trains, right? And bring them back up here. Because they were also selling and trading horses to North and South during the Civil War. So when everything was starting out, they had huge horse farms, the Root family, big into all of that down in the South and up here.
Like both sides.
Yeah, but they were all business people and they were all politicians too. So God knows what they were doing. Who knows, They were a funny bunch. Rum running, racetracks, they were fun. Who knows what they were doing with that? And I think there was, like you said, a lot of cover-up stuff. I think they were doing something with that, Mm-hmm. Even say, like, these people are my horse trainers, and that's why they're coming up here in these train cars with the horses or whatever. Who knows, right? Or they're all jockeys, all 30 of these people. Who knows? I don't know, who knows what they're doing? I don't know.
Exactly. Could have been a secret society.
Well, they're all Masons as well, so they're all involved in that, heavily involved in that. He ran it.
Some people theorize that there's another secret group inside the Masons that even the Masons don't know about.
Right. Well, the Knights
I
Templar and
can't
all
tell
that.
you. Yeah, I can't tell you about that, but I am a Freemason.
Yep. My ex-husband was too. Yep. And I know there's a lot with the Freemasons are funny too because it depends on what lodges you're in. And it's different in different parts of the country as well. They do slightly different. The Scottish Rite and all that stuff. Did you go through all that? Yeah.
I haven't, no.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But there is different parts of it. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Nope, go ahead. Yeah, I just know from being in the South and then moving up here, because I lived in the South for a while and it was different down there, just the way they run the lodges, but it's the same. Basically, the ceremonies are all the same. All that stuff's the same. Ancient societies, you know, that's how they get things done. And also, I lived in Atlanta for a long time and we had gone to, you know, when they burned down Atlanta, so you had the North burning down Atlanta back during the war. And they said that all the houses where the Masons lived were marked and weren't burned because they said that the Masons superseded were more important than the Civil War or the United States. Masons were more important. So the Masons all stuck together. So it didn't matter if you're Northern or Southern Mason, you were protected. So even during the war, it was crazy. Like they watched out for each other. So that, you know, tells you a lot, like who runs what, you know what I mean?
Isn't there
Pretty
like a
interesting.
women's, like something like a women's version, like Eastern Stars?
Evening Star.
Like I've heard of that.
Or something like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those groups, they were really popular. I mean, you know, there was a time period, you know, 100 years ago or so that was just society. That's how you got things done. And it was all about networking, connections and everything. That's how people knew each other and, you know, secret
They're
handshakes.
very cool organizations, though, and people should do more research into it.
Well, I like that they have the Shriners. I mean, the Shriners Hospital, they're all the Shriners once you go into the 33.5 degree, right? And then you go into the Shriners and then you can, all the charities and everything they do, they're amazing. Shriners Hospitals are incredible. And that's all Masonic stuff, you know? So they do a lot of good. Yeah. They get a bad rap. Anything that's a secret society, people don't understand, you know? They figure it's secret, so it must be bad.
There's a lot of important people throughout history that were involved with the Masons, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, change the subject back to the paranormal.
What'd you say?
I said we can change the subject back to the paranormal.
We're losing people.
Well, nobody's watching live right now. I can see the count, but people usually watch after we do the live.
Yeah. No, that's okay. It's just sort of interesting where these people came from, what they're, you know, as far as people connected to the house and what they were all about. I think they were used to being in charge, though, because that's the feeling I get here. At least the spirits here, like they were used to like running things, you know, would have been important local political figures as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on at one time, you know. Might be why they never left. Maybe they feel like they still have something to do.
Yeah. So through doing all the work paranormal-wise that you've done with the B&B, what was your favorite person that you got to meet?
Oh, I loved meeting Adam Barry and Amy Bruni. They were hilarious. Adam's really funny, really funny, really down to earth. They're great people. They're so fun to work with. They're great. I'd have to say those guys, and they were really, they were funny. They're very professional, and I like that they, just the way they do it. They kick us out for a couple days, like 4 days, and then they investigate. So they don't really want to know any history. They don't want to know anything ahead of time. So I like that they sort of come in and then they just tell you what they're picking up. And then they bring their psychic, chip copies with them. So they do like a walkthrough with him. And then he also picks up on things in the house as well. And I thought that was really a nice way that they did it where, you know, I'm not giving them any history. So they're not getting anything from me at all. And sure enough, they went right to the same spots. You know, they really were pinpointing the same areas. Chip went right to the same rooms. green room, that basement. I won't go in the basement at night by myself. No way. If the cats are down there at night and they're making weird noises, that's where they're going to stay. Like they're on their own. Because it's bad down there. It's bad. I'm telling you, it's super creepy. When I was painting the basement, I kept hearing, because I was doing that in January, February. So it's getting dark at around 5. So I was trying to get everything done before 5. And so the one night I had my iPod player playing, which was playing albums. And you know how there's that little pause between songs in an album? There's that slight little pause. The songs don't go right together. And every time, and it was down there past 5, it was about 6, so it was dark. And that pool table room, or the bar room, like we call it now, that's where we caught that laugh, was on the other side of the wall I was painting. And every time a song would stop for that second, I would hear somebody coughing or shuffling their feet or talking coming out of that room. And I was the only one in the house. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm like, no. Mm-mm. And I swear they were waiting. They knew it was going to be quiet for a second. And then they would make a noise. I'm like, no, this is crazy. I was the only one down there. So I'm like, nope, I'll finish that tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah.
Out of like all your like abilities, what do you think is like your like strongest suit, or you think they're all pretty like equal between like seeing, hearing?
I would say, well, for me, I'm definitely clairaudient. I would say I hear quite a bit. You know, if they want to talk, I hear them very clearly. Channeling as well. So I let them channel through me. So those are my two, I would say, strongest as far as a psychic ability. But I'm also a medical empath as well, so I try and tune in. So if I'm doing a reading for somebody, I ask different categories on people. So I'll ask like, you know, what your strong suits are, what you're gifted in, things you might be struggling with and health issues. Your spirit guides come forward, spirit energies from your dad and from your mom, like what you inherit from them, and then past life. So I do a little bit of each thing, you know, on each person. But yeah, I would definitely say probably clairaudient and channeling are the two. Because they can do so much through channeling. They can write, you know, whatever they want through me. I let them, whatever they feel like talking about, let them just write it down. Or then they start to talk.
Was it always like really clear to hear what they're saying, or like no, it just kind of like over time it got more clear to like understand what they were saying?
It was weird. It was almost like for me, the pendulum helped me train my telepathy a little bit too. So it trained my hearing. So if they were trying to spell out a word, or even if I'm writing a word, they would start to sound it out or talk. At first, it sounds like your own voice in your head, like you're almost hearing yourself talk. And it sounds weird, hearing yourself talking. But then I would ask questions to things that I didn't know the answers to, and then they would answer me. And then I was working with the pendulum board and with writing, and then asking this to be clear so I could hear them. And then I started hearing them talking. And now it's to the point where they have different voices. I can hear who's who, you know. There's male voices, female voices, whoever decides to talk, you know.
Yeah, because sometimes like I can hear something I can never like understand. Like it just sounds like there's like whispers, but I can't like understand like any of them that they're saying. So like,
well,
how would I try to hear them better?
I would say, did you ever try and write down with just in longhand with a pen, just write down whatever, like say, ask yourself a question and see if they write an answer. You can start doing that. They'll practice writing through you. And that's one way to definitely hear. That'll help. Because it's weird, you start hearing answers before they even talk, before you're like, to things you don't know the answers to. It's really weird. And then they'll try and focus. It's almost like asking them to give you permission as well. You know, like, I'd like to hear you better. Is there any way you can talk? And at first I was arguing with my guides and stuff because it kept just sounding like my own thoughts. I'm like, how do I know this isn't my own thoughts? How do I know it's your thoughts? Like, how do I know the difference? It was getting confusing, you know, like at first it was very weird because you think, am I just thinking this? Am I just imagining things? But then I wrote a couple books. The first 2 books were all written by them, and they would be writing, you know, about whatever I wanted to, like, say I asked about what are UFOs, or what's, you know, what is a ghost? What is this? And then they would write it out. And I'm not like completely illiterate, but they would write certain words that I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like they would write words I don't know. And then I would go and look them up in a dictionary later and be like, oh my God, it's the right word that actually goes there. And then they laugh at me. They'd be like, well, yeah, we told you. They're like, and then they'll be like, well, look it up. And they're like, okay, look it up. And I'm like, oh my God, that's weird. Like super weird. you know what I had? My sister actually edited the first book for me, and she would laugh because she's like, "This is not the way you talk. This is not your vocabulary. This is absolutely not written by you." I'm like, "Yeah, no kidding. They're quoting Socrates." Like, no, I'm not sitting around quoting Socrates on a daily basis. It was, and then I had to like look it up. Like, what are you talking about? And they say like, "Well, there's a quote by blah blah blah," and they would argue with me and then write it down. Look it up, and there it is. I'm like, "What the hell?" Like. So they surprise you. They definitely say some weird things, and it's almost like just repetition. The more you do that, the more you sort of focus. For me, the pendulums help a lot, but channeling, writing down helped a lot too. Yeah.
I used pendulums a lot growing up. Like when I was a kid, I used to use them a lot. So like I would like try talking to like that one that was like in my house, like that shadow thing.
Mm-hmm.
I tried that, but it was really weird because like how I had like that babysitter, like she was my neighbor. So then, you see, so I didn't realize what I was doing because I was like, okay, like this thing does kind of gives me bad vibes. Like what I was talking to gave me bad vibes. And then we were like, okay, let's go to a different house. So we went to her house and did it there, and we asked like something over there, questions about the one that's at my house, and then I asked if like the one that's at my house is like lying and like playing games and like not good, and it said like yes, and that was really creepy because they were saying how the other one was not good.
Right. And then you start getting like weird answers, like you're not thinking that answer. You're hoping the answer is no, right? But then the answer is yes, and it's like, okay, I didn't think that answer. Like you're not thinking the answer yes. It's so weird, how you'll just get these weird surprise answers from them. And people get freaked out a lot about Ouija boards too, but it's like if you have a K2 meter and you're asking if someone's here, can you communicate with us and light this up, it's the same as using a Ouija board. You're basically asking them to step forward and touch that equipment and answer.
And then for like the like for hearing things, like the only thing that's ever clear is like my name, but anything else like I can't understand. And sometimes it sounds like there's like multiple, like 3 or 4.
Yeah. It could be because you probably have angels on you as well, especially people who are intuitive. If you're empathic or if you're sensitive to anything spiritual like that, they'll have angels around you to protect you too, because they know that you might be in danger,
For like me, I can like I would say like I can like read people, like, and I can like feel people. I feel like after that whole experience with like this shadow person when I was a kid, I kind of like blocked off like talking to like anything like paranormal, but I kind of want to work on it, but I'm scared that like once I open it, it's gonna like drain me or something, or like it's gonna be like a lot, because like when I feel people, like I had a hard time like developing like to like not let it drain me, because I would feel people. So like let's say I'm at like a party, like I can feel like 20 people at once, and it like drains me like automatically. So I want to work on the whole paranormal part without like getting overwhelmed by it.
Right. And that's, for me, that's why I always ask my guides, like, to protect me when I go into situations like that, you know what I mean? Where I had them try and block me from certain people, you know what I mean? Like block to a point, because it is overwhelming, because you're going to pick up on like everybody in the room and it will drain you. It makes you feel like you ran a marathon, like you're absolutely exhausted. And all they are is just people interacting with you. It's not even like you're like doing a reading for them. It's just their energy is pulling on yours and draining you,
it,
you know?
It like automatically like it comes to me like too. Like I'm not even like trying to do anything. Like automatically I'll just like feel it, and then I can like pinpoint like what person it is. But it kind of sucks sometimes, because then like let's say someone's like really depressed, like they're like that whole thing just goes on to me, and then I get sad for like
Right. Yep. And then it puts you in that weird mood, because you're funneling, it's like you're channeling that energy through you to try and heal them, Then it makes you tired. Yeah, there's not much I would say, definitely work on that, work on, anything where the pendulums, I know I keep saying that, but you can do like a letter board at the bottom, like write letters out and have the pendulum point to different letters, and then that helps clear their answers for you. Like they can start spelling it out, and you'll hear, before they're trying to spell the letters out, you'll hear them say it in your head. Like after a while, you're going to start hearing them say it before they start to spell it out,
Also,
it's
a lot
weird.
of times, and like a lot of times, like I'll think of something, and then someone will say it like 5 seconds later. Like, let's say I'm like, oh, I kind of want to eat at like McDonald's, and then someone will be like, oh, I want to go to McDonald's. So I'm like, what?
Yeah. 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 And it's once you open that door, you can't really close it. Once you start to focus on that or ask them to come forward, it sort of opens it up. That third eye opens up, and then you start picking up all sorts of stuff around you, But like you said, it's a matter of guarding yourself,
Yeah. How did you like develop yours? Like, did you just do it like from practice, or did it all kind of come naturally?
For psychic ability, what I'm doing, that's what I mean. Yeah, sort of naturally. Actually, I just started, like you were saying, when you go to a party and you pick up on somebody's energy, or you feel like drawn to someone for some reason. I started practicing, and I was doing it for friends and stuff. I didn't just randomly do this to people, but they would say, "What are you getting from me?" And I'd sit in front of them and go, "Oh, wait a minute." And then all of a sudden things would start popping into your head. It's really weird. And then over time you get to understand like what you're feeling when or what it means when you feel a certain way, or they'll show you symbols sometimes, like whenever you see like say you had an aunt that died of like breast cancer or something weird, and then when you meet someone new, that aunt pops into your head for some reason, then that's a symbol for you, like, oh, this person's sick, or they're dealing with some illness. It could be a cancer. Like, they'll give you symbols that'll make sense to you, and it'll be flashes of symbols. So a lot of times people see them as pictures or symbols. Could be a song that goes through your head.
I see like birds all the time, like blue jays and cardinals for some reason. Like, it's been like a recent thing with blue jays and cardinals. I don't know what they mean at all, but like I just keep seeing those all the time. And then like the number of synchronicities.
Yeah, numerology is a huge one too. Yep. And birds are anything that flies, anything in the air. So butterflies, birds, anything in the upper spirit realms are all connected to spirit, angels. Those people crossed over, spirit energies too. So it's usually people in visitation or family members who are trying to like reach out to you and show you symbols and stuff too. Because people will find feathers a lot. So anything from the sky is from heavens, basically. So they symbolize all different things.
I mean, that would kind of make sense actually, because I actually had like a lot of ducks in my family this year, and I started seeing the birds like recently, like this year, like.
See, and it could be just sort of like whenever it could be a symbol for that person. Then every time I see a blue jay, like, are you thinking about the person before you see the bird? Does it go through your mind? Like, then it's all symbols again.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Now I gotta pay attention to like what I'm thinking in the moment, because I can't remember from the past ones. Because honestly, like I'll just be walking, all of a sudden I'll just see it like fly by.
Yeah, it's weird. I know certain things like butterflies are spirits of the dead. I know that. If you see a lot of butterflies, it's supposed to be like symbolizing crossing over into the other, your other form, basically going from human, like a caterpillar to butterfly, and then that all symbolizes that changeover. So butterflies are another weird one. They're pretty, but they're creepy. I see them. Yeah.
It would seem like being in a state of meditation before doing energy work would be beneficial.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's like you said, it depends on what you're, if you can focus on what you're thinking about, what you're seeing, before you start to see images, it's sort of weird. But you can start practicing on people, just sort of focus on them. And you'd be surprised. You start getting, the more you do it, the more you tune in. It's really weird. Start focusing on them. Ask your guides to help you, give you symbols or give you messages for them too. Because I always say I'm only as good as my spirit guides are. When it comes to doing readings for people and messages and stuff like that, I'm basically a telephone for the spirit realm. Whatever they want to talk through my face is what they're bringing forward for me. Because I'll do messages for people or do readings for people, and people will say, hey, you told me this before. And I'm like, a lot of times they're just talking through me, It's not like I'm retaining it. That's why I take notes a lot. I'll write a lot of stuff down before I do a reading for someone, because I want to make sure they have my notes, as they're talking through me as well, Yeah.
Can you do you see animals too? Like deceased animals?
I do. Certain people they'll be surrounded by animals. Like I'll even put in my notes, like, I've had that happen quite a few times. Like there's a big brown dog with this one person who will come, it's really weird. Like pets have crossed over. Certain ones seem to be attached to people or connected to them still. Are super important to them. Yeah, definitely see animals. Animals are their own, because animals are their own realm. So you have, the angels were created first before humans. It was like the angels were created, then the animal realm was created, and then humans were created. So the animals are ancient compared to humans, but the animal realm is funny because they communicate telepathically like angels do. So angels, when they're around you, that's why people have inspiration. Like all of a sudden that you're trying to work on a project or do something, and all of a sudden it'll just come to you in a flash. Like, oh, I know what I have to do. I have to do this and this. You know how you get that all of a sudden, this massive intel. In 2 seconds, you figured out how to do everything in like a drop of a hat. Like, well, this is weird. I already know how to do this now. That's all angelic intervention. So they'll help you by giving you these weird little flash moments. But they were created or the animals were created for the angels to watch over. So the angels watch over the animal realm. But animals also communicate telepathically. So if you ever watch animals, like two dogs will go look at each other and they'll both go walk off in the same direction together because they don't have a language. They don't speak to each other. But animals will just look at each other and then go and do whatever. They go communicate that way. So some people are sensitive enough or they have angelic gifts, so they have their own telepathy, like humans, that they have part of that angelic gift, they call it, where you can communicate with animals. So you can practice it yourself with your animals. Like, do you have a dog or a cat? Do you have an animal like a dog or a cat? Cat. Because you can like think about them. You know how you think about them, like yeah, and you wonder where they are. Like, I haven't seen it. Yeah, and then all of a sudden they show up in the room. Yeah.
Sophie, it's your headphones are being plugged, more than likely.
Hold on, I couldn't hear for a second. Yeah, because my headphone thing like disconnected, so I had to go on my phone, so I couldn't hear anything just now.
Right. So yeah, so it's pretty weird. So you've got people have gifts with their dogs and stuff too, where they'll be, like you can't remember to let the dog back in. You're sitting there, and all of a sudden the dog will run the room because it knows you're thinking about it. Like, what were you thinking? Did you call me? Like, it's very weird. So they communicate telepathically with people as well. And because the animal realm was created first and the angels watch over the animals first, you ever hear those stories in the news where like a house burns down and like all the people die in the house, but the animals get out. That's because angels will always take care of animals first over humans.
Is there like a reason for that?
They like animals more than humans. They do. They said they're like a pure. They're like a pure energy form. Animals are. They're their own phylum. They're their own energy level. Animals are very different from humans, even though we get along with them. They're superior, basically, because they have all their natural born instincts. We don't have to teach them anything. They're born knowing stuff. Like, how do they know this? Where humans take forever to learn things. It takes like your whole lifetime to learn certain lessons and stuff. We're really sort of slow compared to animals, where it's just instinctual. They just do their own thing,
So like, I have a question. So like, how do I explain? I'm trying to figure out how to word it. Like, so like when like I guess like people's like souls or spirits are getting created, like how do you think, like how does one person become like a human and then another spirit becomes like an animal? Like, is there like a choice, or is it like two different kinds of things?
Yeah, they're two different kinds of things. They're two different levels. You have different there's even like it's basically a pyramid shape. You've got like the gods levels, and there's different levels of gods as well going down the tiers, and there's different levels of angels as well. So you have like, seraphim, and then you have the different kinds of angels, some that guard humans, some that are governing gods, some that run things. And then humans are really at the bottom of the pyramid. Like there's a lot of humans. So they're just a different level, different energy source. So like we talked about before, if you have like a ball of energy that's like a human spirit is like this big, angelic spirit is like this big, animal spirit sort of in between those. It's big,
so
bigger than human.
So like since we're like humans, like so we can't like become something else then. Like we're always gonna be like a human.
No, once you're created as that form, in fact, you're created as a ball of light. You're a ball of energy. Your human spirit is this thing. It's this nucleus of energy form. And then once you, because of the reincarnating in, like between 13, 21 times, you have to do these reincarnations to learn all your lessons because Earth is a school. It's hard. You're constantly learning lessons. It's not a easy thing. Coming down to Earth in human form is very difficult because you're constantly working. Like every day you make 1,000 decisions. It's just not an easy thing, so you have a lot of energy with that. So they're definitely different phylums, different energy fields. Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. I never like really like heard of that before. Like the different like kind of like the like what you said like the pyramid.
Yeah, I mean the way they describe it to me, they just said that there's as far as is there a hell, is there a heaven, that kind of thing. There's two lower levels below us. One is a level where it's you have to go to it's like redemption basically. So if you've messed up on Earth basically, or you had a tough life where you did something wrong, whatever, you go to this redemption level and they try and retrain you. You go to healing, but they try and retrain you and send you back up again. But then if you lived your life and you're okay, you go to the next level up, which is like spirit realm, to rest. You rest for about 100 years after you die, and then you reincarnate back in. And when you reincarnate in, that was the other thing I was going to say, with you starting out as a ball of energy, so every lifetime you're popped into a different part of the planet. It could be in Asia, it could be in Australia, it could be in wherever, Antarctica. So every lifetime you're in a different body form, but your same energy stays the same and intact. So when you're done with all of your incarnations and you're done learning all your lessons and you sort of graduated, they line up all the humans that you were through your lifetime, all the different basically looks or how you look through all your lifetimes, and you get to choose your permanent look. They line everybody up who you were. And the life you liked the best, or whoever liked you, whichever one you liked being the best, or whichever one you're most comfortable in, that's your final appearance. That's how you look. So that's how you choose how you're going to eventually look forever, because you have to also, you're created either male or female, but you have to live one lifetime as the opposite sex in order to be a spirit guide for other people on Earth, because there are males who have females as spirit guides, but they would have to have lived one life as the opposite sex in order to guide you, because they have to know what you're going through. They have to have lived one lifetime as the opposite to know what it's like to be a proper guide for you.
Like what is your viewpoint on like twin flames, like that kind of thing?
Like for twin flames? Yeah, I mean, those definitely exist. You have some people who do repeat with people, for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't get it right the first time, or there was a life cut short and they felt drawn to people, or there are twin energies which have been created before that are separated, part male, part female, that were once part of one solid thing. So there's those as well that are out there where they are really part of one unit, but they're separated into two. So there's theories of that as well. But you have the pyramid levels, which are sort of funny. We talked about a minute ago. So yeah, it's definitely very different. The human realms, like I said before, the reincarnation when you die. So you rest for 100 years before you get brought back to Earth again. Because if you come back sooner than that, you run the risk of trying to find your family or running into people that would have known you. But after 100 years, nobody knows what you look like. Nobody knows what you sounded like. Nobody would remember you on Earth at all. After 100 years, you're pretty much done. So they give you like this funny window, and then you're born back in again. So you don't run the risk of trying to find your family again, or, maybe getting revenge on someone who killed you, or whatever it would be,
So like, if it was like for like the twin flame, so like if it's like one thing that got split into two, so when you go into like the life review, does it like the two people's lives are like put together on one review?
I don't know if they would bring you back at the same time. I don't know if you die in the same day or come back together. It might be more like seeking the person out because it is a part of you, because then it would have to become whole somehow to be two separate. You know what I mean? They'd have to add energy to your flame, to your energy. Because if you're taking one spirit energy, splitting it in half, they'd have to add either angelic light to that or some other energy to it to make it functionable. So you could function on Earth with regular energy. Yeah. And then there's like going up the tier of the pyramid, there's a bunch of different gods as well. There's gods levels. And when they were describing this pyramid to me, they're being really funny. My guides were being funny describing it to me because they said, we're going to use the terms angels, gods. I'm not a religious person. I'm not. I just don't come from that world. But so that stuff wasn't, not that it wasn't making sense, but they said, for me, I would understand if they said angel is more powerful than a human and that a god would be more powerful than an angel. And they said, that's not the terms we use. That's not what we call ourselves. But for you, we're going to call them gods, governing gods, whatever. So you understand there's a tier level. I'm like, okay. But if you go to like Native American culture, friends of mine are Native American, they said it's the exact same tier structure that they have in their culture, but they have different terms. They have all the Native American terms for the same power structure, same tier levels, even with the animals and everything. I'm like, that's nuts. So I didn't know any of that. So I would show them this pyramid and they're like, yep, that's the exact same thing. Pretty weird.
Yeah.
It goes across different cultures and religions.
So like, are like the gods like from different places then?
They are, I mean, technically, yeah, because they colonize the earth, sort of. So they're from different areas, yes. Yeah. Because we're not the first ones here, and the humans, there were other entities here that were on Earth before people settled here. That's just what they're describing to me, because they said there's all sorts of different entities, energies, these elementals they talk about, like the fairy glades in Ireland. That's a big one, because those are like ancient beings that were here, and that's why they made agreements with these beings not to build or live where they are, because they were here first type of thing. Dangerous, they can be dangerous and things like that too. Because there's actually they would always say, my guys would always tell me there's like all sorts of different beings, not just humans, not the only ones. I'm like, huh. And they give me a little detail, but it's sort of crazy. They start talking about all the different planets, and basically they're colonizing planets all over the place. And it's been done over millions and billions of years. So what we see as UFOs sometimes and aliens are actually humans that were created like a million years before we were. But it's the same energy. Just as progression goes along, they change into something different once they're created. It's just it's like people going to the zoo. So these more advanced humans come back here to check out what it was like back in the day, so they can travel in energy form and things like that too. There's all sorts of weird stuff. It's bizarre.
That is. Honestly, that's really interesting. I didn't even think of it like that, honestly.
Because I asked, I'm like, well, where do you guys come from? Like, what is,
Yeah.
Being not a religious person, like how is this explained, trying to get an explanation that made sense, for me. Mm-hmm.
So, hearing the stories that you had about the house, I would be very curious to see what your guys' dates are for tours and stuff, so we can check out the spirits and research this mocking spirit stuff.
So you say what are the dates to do that stuff?
Like, what are the usual rates?
Oh,
charge?
Right. For like an overnight, it's $140 a night to stay overnight. It's like a regular B&B room. You check in at 3, check out 11 in the morning. But you get to investigate if you stay overnight. You get the whole house. If no one's in the other rooms, you can investigate those rooms as well. I mean, I do have some equipment you can use too. Run pods, K2 meters, stuff like that. Show you how to use them. And then for the night, you can use them however you want to use them. Go outside as well, because there's lots of areas outside to investigate. There's the graveyard and stuff out there as well. So that's like for a regular. And then if you wanted to bring a team, let's say you wanted to bring a group and not stay overnight, we do, for $300, you can take a group of 10 people. And you get from like 7 at night till midnight to investigate. So it's pretty good if you bring 10 people. That's a lot of people. And then same, if you don't have equipment, we have equipment you can use, or you can bring your own stuff with you if you want. So those are a couple different options you can use if you want to come and investigate and stay and check it out.
So what about overnights for groups? Totally overnight.
Yep, it would be so the 300 for a group of 10, but then whoever wants to sleep over, stay over till the morning, is an extra 50 per person. Because sometimes only a few people want to actually stay over. Some people want to leave early. So that way we make it so you can choose. And then I feed you breakfast in the morning too. So you'll get Pop-Tarts in the morning. No, I'll make you breakfast. I should make you eggs with like a hot breakfast and coffee and stuff. So you actually get food and everything in the morning too. Yeah. So there's quite a few rooms to investigate too. You have like the main parlor and there's like a library and the dining room, all the rooms downstairs, outside. Kids' room and all that too.
Have you been to like the Hinsdale House in Van Horn Mansion?
Yeah, I know Dan. Yep. I've been there a bunch of times. I helped do some investigations there as well. We let a couple through there. Yep. It's definitely a cool location. He's got some crazy stuff going on, especially out back. I think the wood line has got its own sort of vibe. It's very different. We got some crazy stuff happen down there.
I'm actually lucky enough to be helping with the tours over the summer at the Hinsdale House.
Oh yeah. Are you sleeping over here? Have you ever slept over there?
I'm going to be the 16th over to the 17th. It's going to be a totally different experience.
Yeah, sleeping is difficult. I'm a little worried about sleeping there, just because once you're, for me, like once I'm unconscious, I'm a little worried about. I don't know. Yeah, I'm a little nervous. I don't know if I would sleep. Even here, I've never slept in the B&B rooms. I slept in the gold room. That was it, but not in the other rooms here. Just in our part of the house. But no, Hinsdale's definitely cool. Cool location.
How much bigger would you say the Graestone Manor is compared to Hinsdale House?
We're really big. I mean, we're over 4,000. Well, over 4,000 square footage. So, and then we have all the acreage out back, cemetery and stuff. So, I don't know, maybe twice the size. Tough to tell because the rooms are a little bit bigger upstairs. Yeah. It's a little bit bigger. We can sleep up to 12 people as well. So sometimes people want to bring a bigger group with them because we add beds to the rooms as well. So some people don't want to sleep like by themselves or whatever. So we can add single beds to the beds too. Yeah, Hinsdale is definitely crazy. I think it's got a lot of the same Native American feel that I feel here out back. Like that, for me, that's why it's almost like I recognize that same energy, the vibe or whatever you want to call it. It definitely feels similar out back. With Dan having the burial mounds and stuff out back in the woods, it feels that same where you're being watched, Here, you go out at night, you feel like there's like 1,000 people standing out there watching you. It's absolutely crazy. You can't, I lived in the country, I lived in Atlanta, and never had that feeling. Never had the feeling where it just feels like there's just a wall of people,
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of energy over there. We were able to actually investigate with Dan. Spirits seemed a little more active, even though we're always active.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that helps a lot too, because I think they know it's like intelligent haunting. They know who belongs there. They know who is part of the property, however we want to word it. When it comes to entities, they were people at one time, and depending what the energy is, so they recognize, they're interactive. I think they definitely know who's supposed to be there,
So what are kind of like the up and coming things that you're going to be doing?
We do have a public investigation coming up on the 26th of June, which just sold out. We've got, we are going to be on Hotel Paranormal with Dan Aykroyd from Ghostbusters. Who that is. That filmed actually about a year ago, and it's going to be on Canada's T&E channel, which is like travel and entertainment, but then they'll be on Travel Channel here. And then we just talked to the producers of a show called A Haunting, and we're going to be on that show. They're going to interview us. They already interviewed us. We have a lot of the stuff already done, but then they're going to reenact us down in Virginia. So they're not going to come to the house and film. They're going to actually reenact get actors to play me and my husband Bob, which is going to be really funny. I'm dying to see that, but reenact us. So we're going to be on a haunting. I just did a big interview with something called New York Horse Magazine. So they're doing a whole story on us. The lady who does this magazine is a huge paranormal person as well. So she's doing a whole tie-in with the house and the legacy and the history of the whole racetrack and everything, which is really cool. And then Nick Groff is going to be here in July 9th. So he's doing an investigation as well. Yeah. And I just did a thing, sort of a surprise. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but with well, I don't know if I can allow to say it, but with another TV show, which I can't announce right at this minute, but I just did a segment with them as well. So yeah, we've been doing quite a few things. We're waiting for some things to be released and, post it when they come out.
So anything with your team or you personally?
Oh, with the Elemental Paranormal store? No, not right now. We do have an antique store that we're supposed to go investigate that I actually have been talking to the owner of. Because as soon as I walked in there, I felt like, I don't know if you guys ever walk into a place and you just feel like you're being barraged. Like it just feels like there's something in there. Like this, I went into one part of it was a big antique store with all these different rooms. And the one room I walked into, I felt like it was almost like ambushed. I'm like, whoa, there's something in here that's crazy. And when I told him, because a friend of mine now, we've known him for a while now, and I'm like, what is in that back room? I'm going, what is in there? And he goes, yeah, there was a psychic here. And she was in here about 6 months ago. He said she started screaming and she fell on the floor and was freaking out. And I'm laughing. I'm going, what the heck? He's going, yeah, she said the same. She said there's some weird energy. Turns out the room has a door at the back of it that opens up into two more rooms that were old classrooms from the 1920s that were used by the church next door. And they're all set up with the desks and everything still as classrooms, but they've been locked up and closed off. Everything's still in there. So there's some weird connection to the church with this. It's weird. Whatever the hell went on in there, it's bizarre. So I'm dying to get in there. So that's pretty much on deck. That's the one thing I definitely want to get in there and take a look at that because no one's ever investigated in there before ever. And it just is crazy. Just jumps right out at you when you walk in there. It's nuts. It's been a while since I walked into a location and felt that kind of energy. Mm-hmm.
You might end up coming back with a haunted object. No one.
Yeah, we get a lot of stuff from that store. We get a lot of stuff from that store too, and I never really picked up on that before. So, maybe something was dropped off there that I wasn't realizing, since I'd been in there before, because it was pretty bizarre, pretty weird. Yeah, that I want to check out. Yeah. But otherwise, we've been so busy here. We're pretty crazy booked up until November. We've got quite a few things every weekend, pretty much. This shop, we have weekdays open, so if people want to stay over like an overnight or come and investigate during a weeknight, we're usually around now. But otherwise, most Thursday, Friday, Saturdays are pretty much gone, booked out already. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's always different. That's the fascinating thing about people coming in as teams or as groups, because every team or group has their own energy. Like even you guys, if you go as a group, you'll even notice like you'll have some investigators that you have to like kick off your team or not be with because they change your element. They change your energy field. Like certain people draw it to them, and other people like we call them like they calm down the room, or they calm the energy down. It's like when that person's around, it makes everything quiet. So it's almost like you feel a very different energy vibe with your teams as well. So we have groups coming in here that are just crazy because some people, they come in and they just have stuff happen all around them. Other groups it's a little quieter, but it's always different. Vibe's always different. Depending on your team.
I didn't even think about that, to be honest. Like bringing in your own energy into the room, like with the people you're going in there with. I'd never thought of it like that.
Oh yeah, because you'll notice that, like even for you as an empath and as an intuitive, you guys all definitely have your own stuff going on. You obviously, people being drawn to the paranormal field, you just have a sixth sense no matter what. You're picking up on stuff you shouldn't be picking up on. So right there, you've got something going on. You got some sort of gifts that everybody has their own different niche of it. Like everybody, maybe one person hears, maybe one person feels stuff. Like you walk in and, it's very different. But it definitely makes a difference of that energy field, because some people are just where the super skeptics, or they're just very negative, or those people, even though it's nice to have a skeptic around, sometimes they'll change that whole energy field.
It's kind
So
of
it's
like
super
that.
important.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like when I like read people, like I don't know. There's some like how I can feel people, but like sometimes I like might meet someone, I'm like automatically like my gut just tells me to like avoid.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a big thing with empaths and intuitives too. Like, you don't even have to talk to them. You'll meet three people all at one time, first time you're meeting them, and they don't even have to open their mouths, but you're like, oh, I hate this one. This one I'm going to love. This one, no, you're just reading their energy field, and that's your gut, your instinct. Like, go with that. Whatever your gut instinct is, it's trying to tell you something, So as you get older, you know how that is. You sort of trust it more. When you're younger, it's confusing because you're like, wait a minute, I don't think that person's that bad. And then sure enough, they end up, showing their card like, oh yeah, okay, I see. Yes, they are a lunatic. I was right, So it's just a matter of reading that energy. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. You guys have a lot of people on your team. Like, do you go do investigations?
It varies. Usually the fall semester have more people because that's when the new people are coming into school,
Right.
and that kind of thins out towards the spring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we all kind of have our own different vibes and looks on us.
Yeah, very interesting. Because when you use spirit boxes and stuff too,
Yeah.
You'll hear that they'll call out certain people's names too, and use the spirit box, and whoever's in the room. Like, I always tell people to introduce yourselves. Like, sit around and say, I'm so and so, I'm so and so, and see if the spirit box will then call your name out. Because then you know that they're connecting with one of you or whoever it is. So that's also sort of a funny thing too, because they're doing the same thing. They can read your energy fields as well, whatever's in the room, whatever entities. But good luck at Hinsdale. Just be careful. There's a lot of weird stuff there. Yeah. It's cool though. Very cool. Crazy vibe.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight on our podcast.
Oh, sure. Absolutely, guys. It was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me. This was very cool.
Yeah, I feel like
You
I
may
learned
be-
a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy. I keep at it. Like I said, the more you practice with that stuff, and it'll start to come around. You'll start to pick up more and more, if you want that. Because once you have that opened up, it's tough, like you said, to close it off.
I closed up the paranormal one, but I'm trying to open it because I've did all my other things, but I want to open up to paranormal.
Right. Yeah, as long as you're protected and wear iron, where you're protected, and, you should be okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
I'll talk to you later.
Nice meeting you.
All right. Okay. Nice